Richard Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown. Total disbelief at Ford Field.
He may go all the way to the 20 down the right side, and it's Randall Cobb to the 5, to the end zone, to the touchdown. Oh my goodness.
Welcome, everyone, to the Green and Golden Boys Packers podcast, a podcast for Packer fans wondering, where do we go from here? I am your co-host, Charles, and with me, as always, is Marcus. Marcus, how are you today?
Doing well. With you most of the time, as you had to do a solo one when I was on vacation. But yeah, I'm doing okay. I've been better. You asked me a couple weeks ago whether or not I was ready to hit that panic button or put the panic button on my desk. Well, I'll tell you, the panic button is on my desk. It's open and it's crushed. It's smashed. Yeah. I've been pounding on the panic button for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, at this point, you already have your order in through Amazon for the new panic button because it's been broken twice over at this point.
I bought a 6-pack.
I hear you. Yeah, no, to your point, I did a quick intro or preview game of the Titans game because I thought it was important to have a episode before the Titans game because I had felt the time if we won one of the next two games, there'd be a lot of hope left in this season, and I could see us maybe losing one or two more and still making the playoffs. Unfortunately, as you know, we've lost the next two. I was at Lambeau against the Titans, and oh, by the way, I think I'm 0 for 3 my last 3 times at Lambeau over the last 10 or 15 years. So maybe I shouldn't be returning there anytime soon.
This is all your fault.
I think so. Yeah, I don't even want to look at my record since I've become an owner of the team. But let's not do that quite this episode. But we'll talk about the rest of the season in a moment. But let's look back quickly on the Titans, but more the Eagles game. Because there were a lot of positives we saw out of specifically the Eagles game. Obviously a lot of negatives. But offensively we saw some bright moments. Special teams we saw some bright moments. And from our backup quarterback we saw some bright moments. So let's take a quick look back. I guess what impressed you the most, or what impressed you and what disappointed you the most offensively from the Eagles game coming out of that Sunday night loss?
Let's start with the bad. I mean, the Eagles put up 363 rushing yards against the Packers. Let me say that again. 363 rushing yards against the Packers. And I think they said during the game that was like the most or second most in franchise history for the Eagles. And it's like, I mean, I think the next highest for a quarterback in the NFL was against the Packers, and it was Colin Kaepernick back in probably 2013. I think we remember that game. And he ran for like 200 yards on us. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, obviously Rashawn Gary being gone is a factor. But I don't know how a team can be this bad against the run, and especially against a running quarterback who I imagine is the focus of your preparation all week. We knew what Jalen Hurts could do, and we just let him do it. There was a lot of over pursuit. They weren't staying disciplined, and he just he took one step and he was gone for 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards. It was crazy.
And we tried to account for that, at least early on. We saw Quay Walker trying to be that quarterback spy. And I have a lot of good things to say about Quay Walker through his first, whatever it is now, 14 games as a Packer. But obviously that wasn't getting the job done. And having 100 and some yards that first quarter alone from the quarterback probably warranted some kind of mix-up and change-up from Joe Barry in that defense.
Yeah, I mean, he's been really slow to adapt mid-game. I mean, it just seems like he's so stubborn. He just has to stick with what he wants to do. But if it's not working, give it a shot. It can't be any worse, probably. I say that now, but maybe it could. But yeah, I mean, Quay Walker, I think that's the right idea. But when he just over pursues, or when he tries to tackle and slips and falls, and he just can't follow through. I mean, that's execution. I think to give Joe Barry a little bit of credit, probably spying Jalen Hurts with Quay Walker is the right idea. But
Yep.
If every time he comes to a collision or an opportunity to tackle and he whiffs on it, that doesn't do anybody any good.
Well, and a spy doesn't do anyone any good when you're like you said, the over pursuing, but more specifically, Preston Smith, a great athlete, but coming in too aggressively, on the pass rush and basically leaving the side of the field open. Well, now all of a sudden it's a foot race between, a top drafted quarterback and a top drafted defensive player. But I mean, God, one of the best rushers in the league, essentially, as in QB. It's a race to the pylon or a race to the sideline, and clearly, the offense won that battle, and Quay wasn't getting it done. So sure.
To piggyback on that a little bit, the entire point of a spy is to funnel them to that player. And if you're Preston Smith and you're going around and over pursuing, or if you're trying to rush inside and Jalen Hurts gets a one step outside, again, it's a foot race and you're going to lose that every time.
Yeah, defensively, I mean, that's a disaster, right? I mean, Aaron Rodgers is at his MVP level last year. If you allow that kind of rushing and still allow him to be pretty efficient throwing the ball as well, that's going to be a tough task for the offense to keep up with. And Aaron Rodgers and the offense did a very good job of keeping up. And I would say Jordan Love and the offense did an even better job keeping up with the explosive Eagles offense. Before we move on from the defense, though, the one shout out that we have to give over the last 3 games, Rudy Ford, kind of coming out of nowhere, kind of being this year's kind of Rasul Douglas. Not quite the same, obviously, and it's hard to be the same, especially when we're losing and not winning. But I think Rudy Ford might be a real deal, and actually got the starting job this last week against the Eagles, which was pretty cool to see.
So does that mean if he's this year's Rasul Douglas, then next year's Rudy Ford's going to get torched? Because that's what happened to Rasul in this game.
No, we're going to be positive, Marcus. Remember, we're positive podcasters.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, there were some positives certainly to draw from this team or from this game, and I don't think many of them were defensive. To your point, I think we maybe found something in Rudy Ford, and if he can, continue his play, or that he's had over the last couple of games, and continue that through this season and next season, if we, give him a contract, then I think that he could certainly be a contributor on defense, because I don't know that Darnell Savage is it for the future. Another shout out I wanted to make too was special teams. For the most part, played pretty well. No real gaffes. The only thing I can think of is the first punt and Keyshawn Nixon, or maybe that was a kickoff where he.
It was a kickoff,
where he dropped it in the end zone and still decided to take it out to like the 10-yard line. I don't know what was going through his mind, but if he needs to do that once and then have 173 return yards the rest of the game and almost break one for a score, I think I'm okay with that.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, did we find something in Nixon? I think hopefully yes. I mean, the theme of this year's Packers has been inconsistency, right? Not being able to have all 3 phases, all 3 units play equally throughout a game. To your point, besides that first kick, our return team played very, very well, and not just the returner, but all the other guys, right? I mean, so many times we finally get that return back, and there's some kind of block in the back or holding call or something that's going to, basically erase all the positive momentum we had. And there was none of that this last week that I can remember, at least. So that whole unit, I kind of gets an A-, I'd say, and was probably the most consistent. I mean, it was probably the most consistent of the 3 units that we saw on Sunday night against the Eagles.
And by the way, Keyshawn Nixon was our highest graded cornerback for that game.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, so there you go. So what am I doing calling out Rudy Ford for?
Yeah. So
awesome.
Special teams has been that's been a surprise and certainly something we can, we should shout out. Let's talk a little bit more about this offense, though. I think even though we lost, one of the highest scoring games of the year, putting up 33 points against I'd say a solid Eagles defense. But Christian Watson continues to be. Do we call him a star or a game breaker? I mean, Jordan Love was really good when he came in relief for Aaron Rodgers, but that crossing route that Christian Watson scored on, I think you're hoping to convert the first down, not break that for a 50-yard touchdown or whatever it was.
Well, and you definitely convert the first down, and you definitely get yards after the catch. But for him to outrun the defender to the sideline, I mean, that was just I mean, I don't know what we can call him yet, but I mean, regardless of who our quarterback is next year or the year after, Christian Watson's going to be a real threat, and I think we finally have some idea of who our number one receiver will be for the Green Bay Packers, and hopefully, if this trend continues, that's Christian Watson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that how many touchdowns in the past 5 games? I mean, 7 touchdowns.
Six touchdowns in the last 3 games.
3, yeah. and none before that, right? I mean, a couple running touchdowns, but yeah, I mean, something has been figured out there, right? Where he's still got his drops, but some more contested. His touchdown catch in the Tennessee game was a very contested catch, and he just went up and got it, and that's something we have not seen from any of our receivers all year. So that's exciting to see. Looks like Romeo Doubs might be coming back here hopefully this week. So it'd be cool to get kind of both of these young receivers a lot of experience here these last 5 or 6 games. So we feel more confident in them going into next season.
Yeah, and again, only in the last 3 games, 6 touchdowns receiving. He leads the team in receiving touchdowns. So
yeah,
I don't know. I not enough we can say about him. If he catches that bomb week 1 against the Vikings, is this a different? Are we going to go back down that road? Is this a different story? Let's not do it. Forget it.
I feel like it's a whole nother episode, but God, it really makes you wonder. But that was Aaron Rodgers throwing ball that first week against the Vikings. Obviously, this last week it was Jordan Love. So let's talk about him for a moment. By all accounts, Aaron Rodgers will be playing in Chicago this week against the Bears.
But should he be?
Right? I mean, that's the question. I mean, it came out this week that Aaron Rodgers' thumb has been broken since the kind of hopeless play against the Giants when the game was lost. We needed a Hail Mary for us to, I think, tie the game, 70, 80-yard play. But his thumb has been freaking broken since then. I mean, isn't there some kind of responsibility for your star player to potentially, and I don't know what his surgery would have looked like. I don't know how long he would have been out if he got in surgery or just rested it. I don't know. But I mean, what would it have looked like if he just sat back the next 2 or 3 weeks, let that thing heal up more? I think Jordan Love maybe wins a game or 2 that we lost.
Yeah. Look at what Dallas did. With Dak Prescott going down. I mean, I think they went undefeated with their backup quarterback, which is crazy. And yeah, I think Jordan Love wins a game or 2 for sure. And because you can't tell me that Jordan Love doesn't. Okay, I know we're all maybe getting too excited from what we saw, but what we saw was really good from him at the end of the Eagle game. And if he was just hitting the open guy, which Aaron Rodgers has not done all year, right? I'm not comparing Jordan Love to almighty Aaron Rodgers. I'm comparing Jordan Love to the Aaron Rodgers that we've seen in 2022. Yep.
And the best quarterback play we've seen all year, besides maybe a little bit of the Dallas game, but all year the best quarterback play we saw was in the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, and that was Jordan Love at quarterback, not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and he was slinging it. He was decisive. He was hitting guys. And to your point earlier, I mean, we haven't seen Aaron Rodgers just hit the open guy. He's missed a lot of guys this year, and
he's
broken
missed
thumb,
a lot
whatever.
of guys.
Maybe he should have been on the pup or the injury list for 4 weeks. And
all the Rodgers defenders, and I am one. I rather see us go out with Aaron Rodgers. Let's ride that ride until it's closed, right? Like, he's your MVP. You owe it to him. You never know when he'll just turn around and have an amazing game or season. So let's save next year's quarterback debate for another day. But a lot of people who are defending Aaron, or not defending Aaron, but who are kind of knocking Love, was saying, oh, well, Christian Watson was wide open. Well, yeah, but we've had receivers open all freaking year, and we
Yeah.
still only put up 12, 13 points against the Lions, who at the time were the 32nd ranked defense. Like,
Yeah.
how everything's just been so hard this year. It's been such a grind. And finally something looked kind of easy. And Love went 6 for 9, and 2 of those passes that were drops were the one on the sidelines that he put back shoulder to Aaron Jones. That was on Aaron Jones. I mean, obviously Aaron Jones is amazing. I'm not going to knock him too much for dropping a pass, but it was a great throw by Love. And then I think it was the touchdown drop at the end of the game to Cobb. It was a little bit behind him. Yeah, he could have put it in a better spot, but Cobb typically makes that catch. So, I mean, really, 8 of 9 balls that he threw in that fourth quarter, and the game was still a game, and he was playing a defense that's top 5 in defense. So, like, it's not like it was garbage time, right? It was borderline garbage time, but it wasn't. Jordan Love looked like a real NFL quarterback.
Yeah, and the Packers came back from down 14 to take the lead shortly, in that game. But and then with 9 minutes left, they had an opportunity to do that again. So, but yeah, I mean, let me use Kirk Cousins as an example really quick, and you could say whatever you want about him, but he's a really good quarterback. I mean, top 10 quarterback for sure, and he hits the guys that he should hit. And there have been tons and tons of examples over the last 3 years where Justin Jefferson gets hit on a crosser and, runs it for 40 yards or something like that, or goes up and makes a contested grab. But the thing about the difference has been, Rodgers' ability to hit those guys this year, to put his receivers in a position to make a play. And that's been a big difference.
Yeah. Dude, it's so weird that you bring up, I actually thought of the same comparison. Because Aaron Rodgers the last 2 years, or 2011, he put balls in places that no one could put, giving us an extra score or two, right, in each game. Again, Aaron Rodgers this year is not doing that, but it's so funny that you bring up Kirk Cousins, because I actually thought the same thing. I've always had it in my head that once Aaron Rodgers is gone, regardless of who our quarterback is, we're going to be this terrible Lions type team for the next 10 years. And I oddly thought of Kirk Cousins when I saw Jordan Love play, because I'm like, maybe once this if Jordan Love's still around, once Aaron Rodgers is gone, maybe we're not going to be a terrible team that has no chance at the playoffs. Maybe we're going to be like this always kind of like bubble team, always, like, are we going to make the playoffs? Are we not? Which, by the way, is going to be super fun. It's not going to be us just expecting to be a number 1 seed all the time, which we have been for the last, 10 years. So I obviously rather have the former, where we're hoping and expecting to be the number 1 seed, but Jordan Love showed that he can be a very good top 10 quarterback if what we saw in the last 10 minutes of that Eagles game is actually who he is. And I kind of think that it might be. I mean, that was a very impressive showing.
It was, for sure. And I will play the devil's advocate here and say, yeah, it was, he came in relief. I think he did practice with the team a little bit during the week, because I think Rodgers takes Wednesdays off. So he's going to get a little bit of that, a little bit of those reps, but there's no pressure on him to do anything when he comes in that situation. It's not like we're protecting a lead, So he, what does he have to lose to go out there down 14 and sling it? That's what I'll say. But I'm really hopeful that.
But say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers all these weeks, then, right? I mean, like, what was the pressure on him? Being down 14, being down whatever.
The pressure is he's Aaron Rodgers, and that's his job.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I mean, for example, all right, so at the end of the game, if you're listening to the announcers, Jordan Love hasn't thrown that touchdown pass yet, and the announcers go, oh, no, all of a sudden this defense is going to change a little bit, and this is a little bit different because, you might expect, or you would expect an Aaron Rodgers-led offense to be able to come back from this, but you won't expect a Jordan Love-led offense to come back from this, is essentially what he said. And as soon as the announcer was saying those words, I'm like, what are you talking about? What all year has led you to believe? Yeah, have you not watched us at all? Like, I had no faith. I had the same amount of faith with coming back with Love as Rodgers. So, I don't know. I guess, I don't know if that helps your point or hurts it, but I guess my point is like, dude played better than Roger has all year, and hopefully it's just because of that broken thumb. And if it is because of the broken thumb, then that gives you hope for next year that we'll have one last run at that number 1 seed next year. But also, like, maybe some football malpractice on somebody's part for not sitting a guy who's got a freaking broken thumb on his throwing arm. But speaking of football malpractice, let's talk about let's talk about Matt LaFleur. He's obviously been getting a lot of heat the last few months, really, because he's basically lost as many games this season as he has in his first 3 seasons of his career. Not quite, but almost. I mean, how much fault do you put on this season on LaFleur's hands, and how much of it is literally Aaron Rodgers' thumb, on his hand? And I guess from a front office perspective, from a head coaching perspective, like what if anything could we have done differently this last 2-3 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think we talk about making the decision to sit Rodgers, and I think if Mike McCarthy is still the coach, he may make that executive decision. Say, look, you're going to sit for 4 weeks. We're gonna have Jordan Love come in relief. You're going to rest that thumb. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, you'll heal and you'll be back. Keep the ship floating and go from there. Matt LaFleur, I feel like the relationship between him and Aaron Rodgers has always been kind of, I don't know. I'm not sure how I would describe it, but like I think LaFleur is always apprehensive to make any rash or
ruffle any feathers.
Yeah, he doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. He wants to kind of be that that mediator, and he doesn't want to give Rodgers any reason to get pissed off or whatever. So that makes it a little bit tough because he hasn't really shown that type of leadership where he can just come and be like, Rodgers, shut your mouth. I'm the head coach. I get your Aaron Rodgers, but this is what we're gonna do. And I also don't understand why, in the absence of Devontae Adams over 8 or 9 games under Matt LaFleur, we were able to go undefeated basically, and that's in those games, and we have none of that creativity or execution this year. I just don't understand it. I was expecting, I wasn't expecting to win 13 games again, but I thought 10, 11 wins, and then we'll still be able to generate some offense. But this offense has been historically bad as far as teams that have been led by Rodgers, and I don't know what that is. So I gotta place a lot of blame on Matt LaFleur, whether it's leadership, a lack thereof, or just no creativity in the offense. And we lost our offensive coordinator. Obviously, we promoted an offensive line coach. Maybe that was a bad move. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about this question, the more I'm just wondering how much of it is Aaron Rodgers' thumb. Right, and how much of him is just missing guys? Because to your point, I mean, it was such a creative offense in the years past. That being said, a lot of these offenses are struggling. Right, the Broncos are terrible, the Rams are terrible, the Packers are terrible, and those are all, I guess the 49ers are doing pretty well right now, but so that doesn't really help my case. But I mean, a lot of those similar offenses are not playing so well. So maybe there's an element to teams figuring this out, but I just go back. I can't help but think about that last 10 minutes of this game where Jordan Love just hit the freaking open guy, yep. Right? And whether or not Christian Watson was in the right position or the wrong position, at the end of the day, there's been examples every week where Rodgers just missed somebody. And they talk about it all the time, especially in our first or second loss on this losing streak. They said, if you just have this one play that might change momentum. I kind of believe that, right? If there was 1 or 2 plays that Rodgers would have hit, maybe all of a sudden LaFleur's offense looks a lot better. So I'm not ready to throw LaFleur under the bus offensively or creatively. Maybe some decisions on run or passes on the goal line I'll kind of point his way. But overall, I kind of put that mostly on Aaron. Where I am kind of disappointed in LaFleur is some of the personnel decisions he's made on and off the field. I mean, we just talked about Nixon having one of the best returns that we've seen in 4 or 5 years. God, how long did it take us to get rid of Amari Rodgers?
Yeah, how many times does he have to muff a punt or a kickoff for you to be like, yeah, maybe not. I mean, it's
and it's not even me being like a fan, like, oh, get rid of him, he sucks, he's dropped one thing. It's like I was literally feeling bad for Amari Rodgers for them trotting him back out on the field another time. It's like if I were him, I'd be like, dude, I clearly can't do that. Like, this isn't what I'm good at. Like, don't put me in this position because, like, clearly, what was it, 7 fumbles? So, like, how is that? I don't understand how that computes. And to stick with him for that long. I mean, at a certain point, you got to try something new, and it just took them way too long to figure that one out.
Yep, I would agree. Well, why don't we move on to this week's game against the Bears? Hopefully,
before we move on, the last decision that I feel like we got to talk about that does fall at LaFleur's feet is defensive coordinator, right? I mean, can we talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Our defense has looked terrible all year, especially when you compare it to what the hype was supposed to be. Before Rashawn Gary, before Devondre Campbell got hurt, this defense has not lived up anywhere near what it was supposed to be. And the leader of the 0-16 Lions defense, Joe Barry, was called in to make this defense a little bit better a couple years ago, and it just, I hate to say it, but I think it's about time to move on. You know, it's not working for our guys, it's not working for our team, and like I said earlier, if we lose, if we put up the defense we put up against the Eagles that we saw this last Sunday night, Aaron Rodgers of 2021 and Aaron Rodgers of 2020 still loses that game, right? You can't give up that many rushing yards, can't give up that many passing yards, can't give up that many points, and expect Aaron Rodgers and this Packers offense to win.
No, I mean, it's mind-boggling too, because he just doesn't seem to be able to adapt. So we just get run on, and we don't do anything to change it. We don't challenge the quarterbacks as much. Now, I will say they did against the Titans, and they were able to stop Derrick Henry for the most part, but then, you know, let one of the worst passing offenses in the NFL just light us up.
Well, to your point, then, and they didn't adjust. I mean, they sold out to Derrick Henry. And they did the whole Belichick, hey, don't let their best guy hurt us. But like they did it to such a degree where it was almost laughable. Like, well, you gotta, you know, it's like the scene in the surfing scene in Forgetting Sarah Marshall when he's laying on the surfboard. He's like, well, you gotta do something. You can't just lay there. So you gotta put up some kind of passing defense. And I just all year it's been head scratcher decisions after another, and to the point where Jair Alexander is kind of questioned some of the, like, hey man, put me on your best guy.
Right.
You know, it's why am I not lining up against their best, you know, from a paycheck perspective, the top paid corner in the league, put me on their best guy. And then if I get beat, that's on me. And there haven't been too many times where he's been lined up against the number one receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see that a little bit more. And, you know, he hasn't played as well this year, and maybe that's because he's not being put in a position to succeed. But, yeah, you know what I mean? Put Jair on their best receiver. Let's see that matchup, and, you know, let him earn that paycheck. And let's not just sit here in this soft zone defense and let the guys, you know, pick up 10, 12, 14-yard passes all day, every day. And that's super frustrating. But now, we're going to have to account for another running quarterback in this game. And I don't know if you knew this, but Justin Fields for the Bears has more rushing yards this year than Aaron Jones does. Did you know that?
Oh, jeez, I did not.
And we haven't had our bye yet either. So.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
Are you expecting another 100-yard first quarter from Justin Fields then?
You know, hopefully not. Hopefully we can keep him to 100 yards during the game, but I do expect if he plays it, then he'll be able to put up those type of numbers against us. That said, this is the worst passing the worst passing offense in the NFL. You know, they're only averaging 150 yards per game passing. So if we can limit their total offense to under 300 yards, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the Eagles are a whole different class of football team. They were saying during the game on Sunday night, you know, the quarterback's got a run pass run option, right, built into their offensive play. The Eagles do, where he can hand it off, run it himself, or throw it. Whereas when you watch, and I haven't watched many Bears games, I've watched a few. it looks like it's an automatic quarterback sneak, or like the play is just breaking down. I'm going to go run for it. So still dangerous, but not as like designed dangerous, if you know what I mean, where I just don't think it will be as explosive as what we saw against the Eagles. So I'm still nervous about it.
But maybe they saw that game and they started licking their chops. They're like, you know what? Justin Fields doesn't have to throw the dang ball in this game. We'll just design some runs and,
yeah,
hit him where it hurts.
I mean, at this point, if it starts happening again, the conversation of adopting will be around. But I mean, maybe that's where you put not one spy, but kind of like a spy and a half on Justin Fields, and just say, just dare him to throw it like we did a little bit against the Titans. But again, being able to adapt once it starts working for the Bears. So yeah. I think wrinkles are the key. I think we're not as skillfully advantaged as these other teams as we're used to being. I mean, I think we still are, have the upper hand against the Bears this week. But I mean, I think some disguises and some wrinkles, and defense A is in the first quarter, but then we need to come out with our defense B in the second quarter just to keep these guys on their toes, because obviously what we've been doing has just not been working. And against a running quarterback this year and historically, the Packers are just not great defenders.
Yep. What do you think as far as a prediction goes? Who do you got winning this game? What's the score?
I'm going to pick the Packers to win, because if this is Aaron Rodgers' last year of the Packers, we have to let him go out on top with the Bears to truly be that Bears owner. So we got to win. I mean, I don't care if it's the ugliest game we've ever seen. We got to win this one for Aaron. I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's I think on both sides of the ball. It's in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I mean, you never, guys slipping and all that good stuff. But I got the Packers winning 24 to 21. It is a 3.5 point spread. So they're not covering, and I don't think we've covered. I think we've covered like 2 of our games all year, so I'm comfortable in that bet. Winning 24-21. How about you?
I don't think it's going to be as ugly as maybe you're anticipating, but it's not going to be a fundamentally sound game, that's for sure. I think the weather is actually going to be pretty nice. It looks like it's going to be about 40 degrees or so when they kick off in Chicago. No precipitation, no snow, no rain. I think it'll be a little bit more higher scoring than that. From the Packers standpoint, I think it's going to be 27-20 Green Bay when the game is over.
What do you think the score is if Jordan Love plays?
50-0.
Let's go!
No, I don't know. I think it'll probably be similar,
Yeah. I like I said, we think Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing. He said he's going to be playing. But that's a whole nother episode. So we'll get into that later. But I just for Aaron's sake, just to kind of put an exclamation point on his career, specifically against Chicago. I hope he plays this week, and I hope we get the win.
One thing before we leave, the Badgers had named Jim Leonhard as their interim head coach when they let go of Paul Chryst.
Yep.
They hire Luke Fickell from Cincinnati as their head coach. Do the Packers have an opportunity to hire Jim Leonhard as our new defensive coordinator for next year? Is that even a thing?
I've been hearing rumbles about that. I don't know if they're like real rumbles or if that's just kind of like what people like, hey, our defense sucks. He's a Wisconsin guy. Maybe. I won't pretend to know enough about college football and how good of a defensive coordinator he is to say whether I want to do that or not. People who like Wisconsin seem to think that's a good idea, so sure, I'll go with it. That'd be cool. How about you? I guess would that excite you?
I think it would, but I don't really know. I mean, he seems to be always leading a really strong defense. I mean, the Badgers' defense seems to be like top 10 every single year. And I think the Badgers tend to do more with less. So I don't think the situations are that dissimilar. He'd have to kind of do that here in Green Bay, but he might have a little bit more talent, on the back end.
Yeah, but instead of playing Minnesota caliber teams for most of your schedule, you're basically playing Ohio State week in and week out, right? With running quarterbacks and high level offenses. So it would be exciting. But since you brought up next year, and we haven't really talked, I mean, we talked about Jordan Love, right, and his performance. We haven't really talked about the takeover, and let's not get in the deep discussion. But right now, in this moment, December 1st, as we're recording this, do you want Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers to be our starting quarterback in 2023? Go.
If Rodgers is healthy, you want Aaron Rodgers, I think, at least for the foreseeable future, like next year, maybe the year after. I want to keep Rodgers and I want to keep Love too. So I don't know if we're going to be able to do that or not. But yeah, I think you want Rodgers.
I tend to agree with you. If he's healthy, I mean, why not, right? I mean, back-to-back MVP, why not ride that until you can't anymore? So I agree, but that will be plenty of discussion during the offseason. But for now, we got to run the table to have a chance at making the playoffs. And you know what? We're not about tanking on this podcast. We want to freaking win out so we can have an opportunity to play in the playoffs, come into Minnesota, upset the freaking Vikings in the playoffs, and let's flippin' go.
Let's go.
All right. Well, I think that does it for us today. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Green and Golden Boys, a Packers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcast service. And as always, Marcus, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.